All right, now I remember doing a video like this. It may not even been 2 weeks ago. All right, that Daryl Morey, the Houston Rockets general manager, said something like this. He just said this, so he repeated the same thing in a recent interview that he thinks that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan. Now, look, I understand he is entitled to his opinion. I get that. I understand that. It's just that I have a problem when he said it's a fact that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan. It's not a fact. What data are you looking at? Are you looking at like true shooting percentage? You might be looking at something like that, which true shooting percentage overinflates free throws. Okay, it's really skewed biased when you're a player that takes a lot of free throws. Okay, because if you look at true shooting percentage, it actually states that James Harden is a more efficient scorer than LeBron James. Which I mean, all I gotta do is tell you, like, look at the eye test. Look at the eye test. Okay. I'm sorry. I understand all these advanced metrics and all this shit, man. But give me good old fashioned field goal percentage. Okay. Give me good old fashioned field goal percentage and player efficiency rating. All these other metrics that uh, overinflate three pointers and free throws, so it's going to be skewed toward the modern players. Fuck all of that shit. Okay. Look at the eye test. Anybody really believes that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan? He's not even a better scorer than Kobe Bryant. We saw what happened. We saw what happened what Kobe Bryant did when they started opening the game up after the 2004-2005 season. Okay? Prior to that season, prior to when they opened the game up, Kobe's career high, I believe, was 56, I think. Got to think about it for a little bit, but I think his career high was 56 in a game against the Memphis Grizzlies. I think it was back like in the 2002-2003 season. Okay, I think it was that season. After that, when they opened the game up, okay, the league scoring average went from like 93, the average from 93 to 97. So you saw like a 4 point per game jump, just like that when they started opening the game up and favoring perimeter players and offensive players. Okay, then all of a sudden you started seeing Kobe scoring 50 points in four straight games, 60 points, 60 points, 62 and three quarters against the Dallas Mavericks, the 81-point game. You know what I'm saying? The 10 50-point games in the 2006-2007 season. Okay? I think 8 50-point games during the 2005-2006 season. All right? And what I'm saying is Kobe was a great, phenomenal scorer, but part of it was because the game became easier for a guy like him to get his shot off and to score. Defenses were starting to become a little bit more handicapped. But we've gone way past that now, okay? We've gone to the point now where the game is so open and defensive players are so handicapped that you got guys who I strongly believe would only be putting up 15 points per game back in the 1990s, the late 1990s, guys. I think these guys, I'm not going to say any names, but you got some guys who are in the league right now putting up 20 something points per game who I think would only score 15 points per game back in the Rocket 90s. You know what I'm saying? The defensive latent late 1990s. Not saying it was better basketball, okay? Because some people don't like that type of basketball. Some people like the 141, 139 final scores. It's fine to have those games to me every now and then, okay? But it's kind of gluttonous. I like the smash mouth 77-75 final games. Sorry. Because I think that's when you really saw the guys who really had the more complete offensive games. Okay, these are the guys that were forced to show their repertoire of offensive moves. They had to work harder to get their points. You know what I'm saying? I can only think now in the right circumstance, right? Kind of like Isaiah Thomas, not Zeke, but the smaller, more diminutive one. I can kind of see Dana Barros doing something like that in today's NBA. If the system was geared around him, I can see Dana Barros averaging 30 points per game in today's NBA. Remember back then, the 94-95 season, he averaged 20 points per game. The team sucked. The Philadelphia 76 only went like 20 and 62, I think. But in today's NBA, I think he could average 28, 29, 30 points per game. He was a great, phenomenal shooter. But the one thing that hurt him was his size. He was only 5'10". But I got to figure Isaiah Thomas, who I don't think was as great an outside shooter as Dana Barros, but he's really good. If he could average 29 points per game at 5'9", I kind of think Dana Barros could, if he was, had in a similar situation. I could see Dana Barros averaging 30 points per game. But anyway, I'm getting way off the point. Way off the point now. Way off the point of this video. The point is, you look at the eye test between these two dudes, okay? Do you really think that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan? Seriously. If prime Kobe Bryant was doing that in 2006, 2007, and onward, what do you think Kobe Bryant would do today? I really do honestly wonder if Kobe could have scored 100 points now in the right circumstances. Okay, because Kobe was a little bit more. Michael was a great offensive player. Kobe was more focused on offense than Michael, if that makes any sense to you. Uh, Kobe was more fixated on killing his opponent offensively. Michael was more of a utility man that was a great scorer. If his shot wasn't falling, then Michael could fall into the role of being just a defensive stopper, a facilitator. You know what I'm saying? Even for a shooting guard crashing the boards, he could be more of a utility man if his shot wasn't dropping. That's one of the differences between the two. So I don't know if I would see Jordan scoring 100 unless it was some personal vendetta, like it was somebody saying something to him to provoke him into trying to do something like that. You see what I'm saying? But you look at player efficiency rating. Who's number one all time? Michael Jordan. Okay, number two is LeBron James, and as he gets older, he's probably going to fall a little bit further behind. James Harden is number 13. So he's 13th all time, and he's not going to catch Michael Jordan in player efficiency rating. And as he hits his mid-30s and onward, he's going to start dropping. So I don't think that James Harden is even going to crack the top 10 in player efficiency rating, and ultimately he's going to probably fall further behind. So you look at that, which is pretty much, the standard for how efficient a guy is, a player is, all right? Field goal percentage, 44% as far as career for James Harden. Michael Jordan, a little bit under 50% at 49.7%. So this includes the Wizard years. If you take away the Wizard years, Jordan's at 50.5%, I believe. But you got to include that. So basically, you also have to look into the factor that James Harden, if he plays long enough, is going to have some decline years, which are going to hurt his numbers. You look at a per game basis, James Harden is a little bit over 24 points per game. So he's still behind on a career pathway. He's still behind guys like Adrian Dantley, Rick Barry, Julius Erving, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I believe he's marginally behind or around the same as Carmelo Anthony. All right, so yeah, he's far behind some of the great scorers and great shooters in history. Who's number one on that list? Michael Jordan on a per game basis. James Harden has 2 career scoring titles. Michael Jordan, NBA record, 10 scoring titles. All right. Michael Jordan generally upped the ante in the playoffs. James Harden, notorious for falling and tailing off at the playoffs. All right. During the regular season, James Harden averaged better than 36 points per game. During the playoffs, James Harden averaged 31 points per game. Now that's decent, but it's a drop off of about 5 points per game from his regular season average. Michael Jordan, during the playoffs, averaged 33.5 points per game for his career. And before the first retirement, Michael Jordan, I believe, averaged something around 34 points. I think it was 34.8 points per game during the playoffs. I think it was something like that. I know it was better than 34 points per game. So, in my opinion, you look at the important metrics, it's not close. Now, James Harden is a better three-point shooter. He's a better outside shooter. That can't be disputed. He's not the best outside shooter, though. Okay, he can't contend with the likes of, guys like Stephen Curry or Reggie Miller or Ray Allen or Drazen Petrovic or Chris Mullin or, downtown Freddie Brown. Got to go old school with you guys on that one. He can't contend with, when it comes to outside shooting, like, guys like Jeff Hornacek or B.J. Armstrong or Craig Hodges or Steve Kerr. Even though I know that some of these guys are more spot-up shooters, but if you're talking about just straight catch and shoot, no, he can't contend with the accuracy and the marksmanship of some of these other guys. There have been some great outside shooters in the history of this NBA that I don't think that James Harden is better than as far as 3-point shooting. You know what I'm saying? Shit, I would even put up guys like Wesley Person, um, Allen Houston, Larry Bird, of course, Dale Ellis, Peja Stojakovic. There's many other guys that come to my mind that I think are better outside shooters than him. You know what I mean? So yeah, Dennis Scott, George McLeod, Glenn Rice. So no, I don't think there's nothing where I look at him and say he's the best. Now, he's very good. he's one of the best in NBA history at getting calls as far as free throws are concerned. Like the only other guys that I've seen that are in his league as far as getting foul calls are guys like Karl Malone, as far as frequency, Moses Malone, and I'd say Adrian Dantley. Dantley might have been the best, but I'll give him that. And he's a little bit better free throw shooter than Michael Jordan. He's around 88% for his career, while Michael's around 84%. So he's a little bit better in that department, but they're both good foul shooters. And also, I made this point in my other video, guys, that the year that Michael averaged 37.1 points per game, I believe he shot 972 free throws. I think that's the number he shot that year. So he shot 972 free throws, almost 1,000 free throws. And the league, teams, coaches, players complained that he was getting too many preferential calls. So for the next few years, from 1987 to 1993, every year, Michael Jordan's free throw attempts dropped. And what happened is he adjusted to that. He became a better outside shooter. He wasn't just primarily being a slasher, you know. Um, and he learned to, work off the ball. And he became more than just a two-dimensional scorer. James Harden, you know what I'm saying? Maybe at one point in his career he was a mid-range jump shooter. I don't see that anymore. It's usually just three things: dribble, 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 shoot from outside, push off, drive the basket, layup, occasional dunk, or his ticky-tack foul repertoire. That's it. Michael Jordan had the post moves. Okay, Michael Jordan had the mid-range. He had the pull-up, the fadeaway, where everybody remember. He could pull up from anywhere. I would say Michael was comfortable with pulling up from anywhere from to about 20 feet out. As far as three-pointer is concerned, he was more of a on-the-go three-point shooter. Or if he had a really good look, he could, knock down a shot, I say, all the way out to about 26 feet, 27 feet. But, it is what it is. And this is the last thing I got to say about this. Last year, James Harden, when he averaged 36.1 point, well, I think it was 36.3 or whatever it was. He averaged better than 36 points per game. And he shot over 13 three-pointers. Okay? He shot over 13 three-point attempts per game, which I think is an all-time record. I think that's even more than the amount that Stephen Curry took during the year he averaged 30 points per game and made 402 three-pointers, 2015, 2016, right? But despite shooting this record amount of three-point attempts, he still couldn't, and also dealing with all of these rules that benefit offensive players, including the recent freedom of movement rule. He still couldn't best the 37.1 points per game that Michael Jordan averaged during 86-87, when Michael only took about maybe one three-point attempt every 2 games. So you're getting all these extra points from beyond the arc, probably about 5+ points or so from beyond the arc, but you still couldn't best that 37 points per game. So I'm just trying to figure out, how is it that he's a better scorer? I don't get it. He doesn't have more moves than Michael. We've eliminated that. He doesn't average more points per game in the regular season or playoffs. Okay. He doesn't shoot more efficiently. Okay, not by any meaningful metric. Okay, he doesn't have more career 50-point games, which is kind of a stupid way of measuring anyway, but, he doesn't have more career 50-point games. So what is it? And in the 50-point games that James Harden has, how many times did he miss more shots than he made? How many times did we see him go, you look at this, the original, you look at the points, you go, wow, James Harden had 58 points. But then you look at the box score and you see 16 for 39. Whereas with Michael Jordan, in his 39 career 50-point games, 31 during the regular season, 8 in the playoffs, he shot nearly 61% from the floor collectively in those games. He was all about efficiency. Case closed. He's not a better scorer than Michael Jordan.